You're here for a webinar with Sanborn and appGeo and Google on unboxing Google Earth Engine, a global scale platform for data and analysis. And with that, I'm going to hop right into our speaker introductions as we have quite a lot of content to get to today, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time to cover it all. So again, welcome. You're here for a webinar on the Google Earth Engine platform. And we have an incredible panel assembled here for you all today to get a really great insight into this new platform now available for commercial and government users. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I am Aaron Doucette, the creative director here at Sanborn and appGeo, who will be the MC for this afternoon's presentation. So allow me to introduce our panel, who we have assembled to answer all of your questions and give you a great look at this incredible platform. We're joined by none other than Kyle Campbell. He's the global sales lead for Earth Engine at Google. He has a deep background in geospatial as well as this particular product, Earth Engine, for many years. And we've had a great working relationship with Kyle as for our Google partnership. So we're really honored to have him here. Definitely one of the eminent experts for the topic at hand today. We're also joined by Jeremy Malczyk. He's a customer engineer for the Google Cloud and Earth Engine products. He's going to be here to answer any of your more technical questions on the platform and be able to provide a little bit of extra support for any of those deeper questions that might come up through our Q&A today. And of course, we are joined by David Breeding. He is the Director of Analytics here at Sanborn and appGeo, and has been leading the charge from our team as to working with this exciting platform and working directly with our customers to ensure it's a great fit. So let's dive right into our content. But first, I just want to give a little bit of background on us at Sanborn and appGeo. For those of you who may be familiar with appGeo, we are now a wholly owned subsidiary of Sanborn, and we're leveraging all of the capabilities of this larger combined company, bringing consulting and mapping and collection under one roof, which is a really exciting combination. Sanborn offers end-to-end geospatial solutions, including imagery, LiDAR, mapping services, and so much more. You're going to hear about that a little bit throughout the presentation, sprinkled in there. And of course, Google Cloud and Earth Engine are some of the ways that we're bringing even more value to our customers with cloud platform support and more scalable solutions. So you are definitely in good hands when it comes to learning from a partner who has been there and done that. So to give you a quick rundown of our agenda today, it's going to be real simple. You're here to learn about unboxing Earth Engine. So, learning about what's in the box and what all that means. Number two, some assembly required. We're going to show you how to take all those pieces, put them together and make something incredible. And then maximizing Earth Engine. That's about how to go farther and how to really think about the architecture of your project and thinking about some of the ways to make it even better. And then lastly, we're going to wrap up with some resources we've assembled for you where you can learn more and go deeper, as well as who to reach out to when you want to really get things going. And then perhaps most importantly of all, we have a Q&A session with the full panel here. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, drop them into that Q&A box in Zoom, and we will answer all of them. And if necessary, follow up via email as well. So feel free to keep those coming. So with that, what you are all here for, unboxing Earth Engine. Really excited to dive into this. We've been wanting to put this webinar together for quite some time now, so we are very excited to present all of this with you today. And we're going to kick it off with Kyle. And so Kyle, when we think of unboxing, we often think of opening up a new product and exploring all the features and capabilities. And today we're going to do just that with Google Earth Engine. So, think of Kyle and David and Jeremy as our tour guides taking us on this journey together today. And I want to hand things over to Kyle to get us started. So Kyle, are you ready to unbox Earth Engine for us and show us what makes this platform so special?
I'm ready. Great to be here. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Absolutely.
So just again, quick hello to everyone out there. Thank you for joining today. My name is Kyle Campbell. I'm the global sales lead for Earth Engine and sustainability here at Google. I've been at Google for almost 11 years now, and during much of my tenure here at Google, I've had the pleasure to work with both the appGeo and Sanborn team, and it's super exciting to see them merge together. I think it's a great combination, and especially when it comes to Earth Engine and Cloud, we're super excited about the opportunity to work with our friends here. So go ahead and hit the next slide, please, Aaron. So when we talk about Earth Engine, and I think really a good place to start is, why did we create Earth Engine? What are we looking to accomplish here at Google? Google has really a very large leadership position when it comes to sustainability. We are the leading cloud platform for sustainability, driving towards zero emissions, actually one of the only ones that can provide a lot of the sustainable solutions that you'll hear about today. And we're a leader in this space. Earth Engine is something that we created over 12 years ago. And the goal of Earth Engine was to do good. It was to give back and make an impact, a positive impact on the world. And happy to say that we've done that. If you look at the next slide here that Aaron's jumped to, these are some of the early time-lapse animations that we've done here at Google by bringing in all of the remote sensing capabilities and a massive amount of data. If you look down in the bottom right-hand side, that was one of the first projects that we started with Earth Engine, really covering the deforestation issue in the Amazon forest. It's a really powerful visual to show you what has been going on down there, and we're really playing an active role in how to really save our natural resources and do good by our planet. You see a couple others here, the glacier retreat in the upper left-hand corner. And then down on the bottom left-hand side, you see Las Vegas here in the United States. This is a animation that really, I think, is a very powerful visual. You can see as the city grows over time, the sprawl, the urban sprawl, Lake Mead shrinks in size. And so, just Earth Engine's a really powerful platform to quickly visualize a lot of this, but there's a lot of other really great business applications and use cases using our remote sensing platform. And so as far as what Earth Engine is at a high level, it is a remote sensing platform built on top of Google Cloud. And again, it's been around for quite some time. We have now over 1,000 data sets. So this slide is a tad bit out of date. So it's a massive catalog of data sets where you can do remote sensing and Earth analysis. It's also powered with really innovative and differentiated computation capabilities against all of that imagery, geospatial content that we have in the platform. But I think the real interesting thing is we see a lot of companies in the cloud space starting to enter the remote sensing world, if you will. Being in this space for over 12 years, we have a very large ecosystem of users. So while Earth Engine was launched as a commercially available product back in June of last year, again, we've been around for over 12 years, and we have over 50,000 people monthly that come on the academia side, the research side, and now the business side to solve problems. And this rich user community provides a ton of benefit as a commercial user. If you have issues, questions, there's a really great ecosystem of people to ask questions. And of course, Google is here to support you, as well as our friends at Sanborn and appGeo. Next slide. And so I mentioned we have a massive catalog, again, many data sets and data types. We add about 1.5 petabytes of data to Earth Engine on a monthly basis. So it's a massive platform to bring in all of the different types of content you might want to analyze climate and weather, imagery and radar, geophysical, socioeconomic, and many more data sets. Next slide, please, Aaron. And if you can just hit the button one more time. Great. So this is one of my favorite slides. And I think, if you want to do a screen capture this slide, because this, to me, really is a really good pictorial of how Earth Engine creates a ton of value for our customers. And so if you want to do remote sensing in another cloud other than Google's, you certainly can do that. There's a way to do it, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So if you look at the left-hand side and you're using another cloud platform to really do from scratch remote sensing, you have to download, upload data. You have to provision it. You have to get the projections correctly. The most tricky thing when you're using satellite data is you have to remove the clouds, atmospheric haze, and different things like that. And so Earth Engine takes care of all of that, so that if you look on the right-hand side, you can come to Earth Engine and simply solve your problems. I have several customers that I've met with over the past few years where they've been working in another cloud platform, and they've spent 5, 6, maybe more months just doing the work on the left, and then they run the problem and try to get to the answer by doing the work on the right. We've worked with these customers in a matter of a few days, gotten the data, and been able to give them the answers they're looking for in a day or two versus these many months. And so that, at its crux, is really one of the big benefits of Earth Engine. It's a super powerful platform to come to that's ready to solve problems. Go ahead and hit the next slide. So when we started Earth Engine back about 12 years ago, this is how you did remote sensing with satellite data. You went to NASA, European Space Union, and you had to get access to tape, and you had to upload it. And so it was a very cumbersome process. But now, having access to that content, we have the Sentinel, the Landsat, and many, many more data sets that are uploaded every day. New data sets are uploaded. So it's a very robust and living catalog, as we mentioned, now over 80 petabytes. Go ahead and hit the next slide. So I mentioned one of the problems when you're doing remote sensing with satellite data is that there's clouds. Satellites obviously fly above the clouds. And so this is an area over Scotland, which is a part of the world that has lots of cloud cover. And so we have many techniques to remove the clouds and provide a really great view. And so using a lot of the goodness in Google Maps and the know-how, we have algorithms and means of taking multiple images of that same area and removing the clouds. And then if you hit the next slide, Aaron, we take this and we go to this, which is a really nice mosaic that you're able to take action on and work with from a visual perspective. Do keep in mind, we also have SAR radar as well, so we can see through clouds. We don't always have to do cloud removal, but again, Google is very strong at the cloud removal capability. We have the one of the world-renowned best platforms for removing clouds when using imagery. Go ahead and hit the next slide, please. So you might ask, so what am I going to do with Earth Engine? And what we like to say with Earth Engine, it helps you turn pixels into insights. And so using all of this massive amount of data that we've collected for you, and I would like to point out, you don't have to use just the data that's there. Our friends here at Sanborn collect a lot of aerial imagery. As long as the imagery you own, maybe on-prem or on-site or maybe in another cloud, is geo-referenced, you can bring that to Earth Engine and have your own private instance. You're not sharing with everyone else, but you can use that higher resolution data as well, and basically take that data, compute and analyze, and then create actionable reports and visualize it at the end. And so really, this is kind of the workflow that we look at when we're using Earth Engine, is taking the data and turning the pixels into insights for your business or your organization. And so there's a lot of use cases out there for Earth Engine. I have a lot of people ask me, well, what can I do with this Earth Engine? It looks like it has some really great pictures and great videos, but what are some really good use cases? These are some of the more popular use cases for Earth Engine. They're not all of them. There are many more, and we're seeing more and more come into view all of the time. Sustainable sourcing is a big area that the consumer packaged goods companies are looking into. One of our largest customers in the Earth Engine space is Unilever. Unilever has a very ambitious goals to be very good to the environment and not source their palm plants from areas where they're cutting down national forests. And so by using Earth Engine, our platform and one of our partners have built out a really amazing solution. We have many partners that are working in this space. So this is a really great area to do good by the planet, help companies be more responsible corporate citizens. Other areas that we see a lot of use case are climate risk and looking into climate change. We have many partners that are building models, running those inside Earth Engine, and climate risk is something that a lot of finance, insurance, and even government entities are looking into. It's a very top of mind area for them. But I would say probably one of the most popular use cases for Earth Engine and remote sensing in general is how you can use it to enhance agriculture. We have many companies out there today that work in this space. And I was actually at the CES conference earlier this year with the CEO of John Deere was talking and mentioning that the amount of farmers and farmland are continuing to shrink. However, the demand for food is increasing dramatically. The only way we can provide a sustainable source of food is being more efficient with how we do this. And using imagery and remote sensing is a very powerful tool. So this is probably one of the biggest use cases that we see. Other areas that are also really popular and very large are protecting natural resources. So we have many forestry agencies around the globe now, many that are using Earth Engine. And without Earth Engine, they weren't able to really effectively manage their forest. And I think David will be going over this a little bit. We also have another area that's emerging in the energy sector around environmental impact. So many utility companies, but more so in the oil and gas space, are looking to us to help them detect methane leaks. One of the dirty secrets about the energy sector is that drilling for oil and gas, it releases methane. Methane is odorless, it's invisible, very hard to detect, but using some of the new satellite technology, the multispectral satellites that are being launched, running that in Earth Engine, you can pinpoint those areas and mitigate the leaks and provide relief for the environment. Methane is very damaging to the ozone layer. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 48, 50 times more potent than carbon emissions. And then other areas that we're starting to see emerge around healthcare. David will give an example by a company that we've worked with here at the end, but we see people looking to use Earth Engine and all of the different signals to really do mosquito forecasting and monitoring so that they can minimize the impact of different viruses and things like malaria and Zika and West Nile. And so these are really interesting use cases where Earth Engine can help because we have access to all of this great content to manage impervious cover, moisture, different indicators that can help us determine that. And other areas that we're also starting to see are algae bloom monitoring for water supply. So we're working with many companies and private public sector groups around the world that provide drinking water. And when there's an algae bloom in a lake that they're trying to pull drinking water from, that's a big issue. And so being able to use Earth Engine and the remote sensing capabilities to get ahead of an algae problem is a huge it's a huge problem that's solved by using Earth Engine. Allows these groups to be very proactive to look at the farmers or different people that are putting fertilizers into the lake nearby and really getting to the root cause so that they can provide clean drinking water for everyone. So let's see, next slide.
Right. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for that overview. I think it's so clear that the societal and environmental factors at play here are just so relevant to the problems that we're all trying to collectively solve for our planet and our culture. I think we've seen that the platform has so much to offer in terms of the analysis, but I think for many folks, getting started with the project can still be a daunting task. And that's why we've invited David Breeding, our Director of Analytics, to take us through the next stage here.
Appreciate it, Aaron. Yeah, happy to hop right in, and thanks for the quick intro. I think we want to talk about the how. I want to talk about the how now, and it does require some assembly here, but I'm going to do my best to try to find the right altitude for the audience and give you a little bit more of how this happens. And I think I want to start with just a quick hit on the history here, like what's possible today. Really, we're standing on kind of the shoulders of giants, the people that decided to Landsat as a representation of these satellite resources we now have access to, it's really enabled everything we're talking about today. And they, at the time in 1975, NASA knew, saw that, oh my gosh, this is going to change the way that we operate on imagery, and will alleviate so many of these time-consuming tasks which are in the way of solving these challenges. And so we're not run on magnetic tapes anymore. Google has done a lot of great work to get us to where we are today. And I just want to give you guys an example of what is possible, what the platform can do. Next slide. In 2013, a paper was produced, but this is a representation of the extent of the forest across the globe, and they've calculated where there's loss of forest. We heard about some of the deforestation going on, but also the growth. This was something that was not possible, until Earth Engine came along, and we now have they had the bandwidth, they had the compute and they had prepared all the imagery to answer this question. Next slide. And it was, it took a little bit of compute power, right? This is representative of what it took to get this done. You likely won't need this level of compute to answer your questions, but it's there. You're not going to run into what some of the scientists in NASA could only kind of dream of being able to do. And so that's where we are today. Is you can approach projects at a scale that just wasn't possible before Earth Engine. Next slide. And so Kyle alluded to it, papers are constantly being published, leveraging Earth Engine to answer these questions. That, standing on the shoulders of giants, there are papers that are released in March of this year about machine learning and kind of how they're pairing this asset and developing novel machine learning pipelines to answer the questions of today. So, for people that are looking outward and thinking about their challenges, there's just such a wealth of information available to groups trying to approach, these remote sensing activities and figure out ways to answer the questions that you have. So this is, kind of science, talking NASA, talking kind of researchers, right? This asset was generated, this global government, but that's just the beginning of the story. And I think we'll kind of see throughout this presentation how you go from science to operations. And so once this paper was released, well, very quickly after, the U.S. Forestry Service took note and realized, like, this core methodology of how you're looking at your forestry assets, there's so many other things that you can actually do as it relates to the health of the forest, and you have the mission of the Forestry Service to make sure we're getting the most out of our collective resource. And they ultimately were able to create the land change monitoring system solution, which is a publicly available resource, which is tracking the health of our forests and looking at fire risk and looking at a number of different dimensions, which you're able to go and kind of take a look at the URLs on the screen. But I think this is kind of the process, right? There's this tool, Earth Engine. There is science and remote sensing components to creating these answers, but this is how, when you think about using Earth Engine, it's about how do we operationalize this? How is this going to help our organization answer the questions of the day and advance our, the sophistication and what's possible. Next slide. And just to take a look at that, right? What is this? What operationally, that's a great map. Those are pretty colors and pictures. You need to change this insight into information. And what you're seeing on the screen is this representation of change over time. And we're looking at how the forest is losing kind of tree canopy density and cover. And that kind of has a, when you look at it on the screen, it's like, that's a lot, but you can quantify that. And you can start to set up monitoring kind of moments that say, when there's big deviations in what we were expecting, let me know about that. And you have, because of the depth of the Google Earth Engine catalog, control over that temporal unit that you're interested in. And so that's just real power to kind of drive decision making, to validate assumptions. You can look back through the catalog and you can really start to kind of get a grasp on some of the trends and indices that are of interest to you. Next slide. So kind of getting a little bit more into it, I'll kind of cruise through this, but there's a lot of information, and there's really 3 steps that we're kind of, when I think about it, we want to break it down into this filter moment, this reduction moment where you filtered your information, you're kind of reducing it down into something that you can look at and analyze and make sense of. And you can start small, and then you can scale it. That parallel capacity and compute is really, once you've kind of established what you're doing, you can grow and really do it to the scale that makes sense for your use case. But to go through these steps quickly, you need to kind of get an image. You need to define your area of interest. You need to kind of define what are the bands or the information that's contained in these images that you want to kind of explore. And once you've kind of identified that, next is to select an algorithm. So, what's an algorithm? It's kind of like a recipe, right? We need a recipe, that we're going to kind of leverage our ingredients or those bands, and you can mix them together and ultimately get this desired output, right? In this image, we're seeing kind of those R, G, and B, those red, blue, and green elements that make up every picture get exposed, get exaggerated, differentiating for our eyes to kind of see where those are. And similarly for the computer, we can start to see those things of interest, like vegetative health, right? For example, that would be NDVI is a calculation that can help show you that vegetation or express where it is. So regardless of the algorithmic sophistication, right? The Earth Engine has the primitives, those components that you need to develop your own algorithm to answer your question. Next, I think really the most critical and valuable part of the process is really that data catalog I've mentioned already. You can basically filter down the imagery assets to just what you want to work with, in temporally and in space as well. So let's just say our algorithm that we're kind of interested in is agricultural productivity, and we want to understand the relative productivity of crops over 3 different points in time for maybe the entire country or maybe the entire state. And maybe you want to break that down into counties and aggregate it that way. So you have your algorithm, you have your images in your area, but you can now just get those images that you want to work on. Next slide. And once you've pulled out those images, you now apply that algorithm to every one of those images that you're interested in looking at. And this is what Google Earth Engine's great. Global or right onto your area of interest, it's going to be able to apply that, and it's going to be able to do that in a parallelized way. Next slide. But once you have all of these assets, you need to kind of reduce them down into a kind of a sandwich. You're making, extending the recipe analogy or the cooking analogy, right? You're trying to distill it down, reduce it to this kind of unit, like that growing moment in time, right? We want to do it at the beginning of the growing season, the middle, and the end, across every year, right? Over those geographies, you now have these sets of collections that you can compare against each other. And next slide, kind of generate statistics. Well, how is over time the productivity of this particular area changing? Is productivity increasing, decreasing? And you can start to ask and answer a lot of questions and advance down this path. But this is essentially at its core what Earth Engine is doing. Taking your all of this variety, this great catalog, and reducing it down to answers that you can operate on where you do your work.
Absolutely, David. And thank you for that. I think you're ready for your cooking show now with all those great recipes. From here, I wanted to, take it a step further from the conceptual to the practical. And I was going to ask if you can show us some of the applications in industry that we've seen, some of those dishes that we've been thinking about cooking up with this Earth Engine. If you could walk us through some of those, that would be amazing.
More than happy to. I think, we've been really excited about Earth Engine coming to the commercial space to start to approach challenges which really weren't possible or weren't allowed by Google, but now they are. And so insurance companies we have existing relationships as a Google partner with some insurance companies, have been talking about Earth Engine as a new resource to consider. And one of the conversations we've been having is just around new ways to quickly and repeatably audit profile risk, right? We have a rapidly changing environment, conditions of the past that maybe balanced portfolio might not be fully kind of digesting or kind of accounting for some of those change. So, we need to make sure that data it starts with your data, your portfolio data. How ready is it to kind of operate on spatially? And this is a really key part of a conversation. What is that unique information you have in your organization that we can spatially enable? And then once we have that done, we can go use Earth Engine's catalog. We can look for flooding related indices. Historically speaking, we can look for drought conditions. We can look for fire risk conditions. There's so many different layers that you can then take your risk profile to your portfolio, compare it against, creating this sandwich, right? Doing your analysis, comparing where there's divergence, right? Where that risk embedded in your portfolio is diverging from the relative risk associated with these various other elements in your kind of recipe. And so that's that flagging and balancing of a portfolio, is the opportunity here, so that during policy adjustments in the future, you can make, have a better informed kind of landscape to kind of design, to manage the portfolio, the insurance portfolio. But beyond just insurance, right, this environmental change, there's the utility industry also has these same use cases, right, are interested in how their assets are at risk, right? So this is just a specific example in the insurance industry, but thinking about encroachment on utility assets, or thinking about, we already heard about methane leaks or other type of dimensions around another use case. Earth Engine has many mechanisms to kind of create those elements, and that temporally deep asset class allows you to kind of look how things are changing over time. So this can be done for lots of industries, but we've been excited about the traction starting in an insurance space. We heard about precision agriculture as well, and this particular client has been doing what we're talking about, not using Earth Engine, going through, in the blue part of the pie. They've been doing that, right? They figured that out, but they're looking at Earth Engine now. It's like, can we do it better? Can we reduce, similar to what the NASA scientists thought about, can we reduce our effort to get this done via other technological means? And so that's really what I've been thinking about, is like, well, that's replace the existing ways in which we're ingesting and managing and aggregating our data, reduce those manual data processing tasks, and then within the Earth Engine, within the Google Cloud platform, also streamline that product that's coming out of Earth Engine or coming out of their processes to get it right to where their end users' applications are kind of asking for the information, which happens to be on John Deere tractors or a tractor of, out there in the field that are going to act upon that information, the agriculturally specific information. But really exciting to kind of use Earth Engine as not a new way, they know how to do remote sensing. It's more about operationalizing and improving efficiency using this tooling. Next slide. Another interesting one we've been thinking about, we work with a lot of governmental entities and who really want to take advantage of this. One conversation at kind of the state level is kind of having more notification about important change that's going on within their boundaries. How do we get informed about this change? Oftentimes you're looking backwards in time, but what if you could have better notification earlier in the pipeline, earlier in a decision-making process, going into your budget season to have, like, look what's changing, right? So quantify that change, expose those unknowns. And sometimes it's slow, right? Frog in boiling water, right? You're not feeling it, but Earth Engine allows you to kind of create this potential dashboard we've been talking about that's kind of elevate these trends, and then pair it with high resolution assets that are already available. There's a really interesting data product in Google Earth Engine called Dynamic World that shows land cover change, and it's off the Sentinel-2 platform, and looking at those landscape changes where urban developed kind of sprawl is kind of expanding in areas you wouldn't expect when you look around kind of building permits and other indices in the data that states already have. Bring those together, that unique information that only states might have available in large quantities, and marry it with the information in Earth Engine to answer and notify the correct group about something might not be right here. And doing that faster can help hopefully reduce impacts on the environment or on the state in ways that were unintended. Next slide. And I, Kyle already alluded to this, but I think that the message here is really going back to your data, thinking about what is special about our data. SC Johnson, kind of working with Google, when we heard about this, we haven't worked explicitly with them, but it was a really interesting kind of case where they had been long trying to figure out, where do people need off and when? And they'd done all this research and kind of organized this information, and they had that wealth of unique info, and then the Earth Engine product allowed them to marry that together. And so, Earth Engine has temperature and other humidity indices, and they knew those thresholds for when mosquitoes actually start to occur. And you could create this map, and create it every day or every, actually, I don't know the actual temporal resolution, but I think it's like on a daily basis, it looks like, or potentially weekly project out where that need was. And that was a way that this commercial, SC Johnson created this really unique product that could drive, consumers to go purchase their product when they saw the impending need for it. Our vacation's coming up. Should we buy off? Wow, look, SC Johnson will tell me what I need. So a really powerful way to use remote sensing data to support a commercial use case.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think this is a great example for our audience here, because when you think about something as dynamic as, the population of insects, right, there are so many variables that go into that at a global scale. And by doing all that heavy lifting behind the scenes, Earth Engine allows developers to create these kind of friendly, easy to use interfaces for the end user or the stakeholder, where all that customer needs to do, as you can see here, is put in their zip code, and they're getting the relevant information. They don't have to have a PhD in remote sensing and insects, right? So really encapsulating the idea of taking pixels into insights. I think this does it really well. And I thought those were some great examples for our audience. I'd love to hear in the Q&A what industry you might be coming from as well, so we can see if we can keep connecting the dots further. From here, I just want to take it into kind of our last little section here, maximizing Earth Engine tips for setting up your deployment and how to think about really getting this off the ground in a practical sense. So David, if you wouldn't mind joining us for this last little section here, we can then get into our Q&A and such after this.
Yeah, no, thank you, Aaron. So we've been learning about Earth Engine. I've been kind of exploring it, back in, Earth Engine's been around for 12 plus years. I started to explore it, but as I kind of see these new use cases and talk to different end users, trying to break down this process, trying to really understand, how can we kind of approach this? And these are kind of the groups, the really important subjects, topics to kind of conceive of as you start to go down this Earth Engine, journey, right? Is really thinking about your data. We had the S.E. Johnson kind of example. What is that unique input that you have, and how can you mix it with kind of the substrate, the Earth Engine catalog, to create real and new insights that the market wants to pay for? And so that's often a conversation. And in what resolution does it need to be at, right? There's lots of different inputs, and some questions are better supported by different resolutions of data. So that's often where, some initial conversations when I talk with clients about is just really getting into, well, what are we trying to answer, and what's the right resolution? What data do you have? Moving to the analysis and results. The Google Earth Engine kind of process is iterative in nature, and good planning up front to define what that success criteria is really essential as you kind of start to do the science behind selecting the analysis. Where are we trying to get to, and kind of having that as a North Star to like any good data science project will really help kind of guide this potential to develop new insights. And also the efficiency piece of this, right? It's not always just these new insights, but how could we maybe improve if we're already doing remote sensing work? Is there a part of our remote sensing work which could be more efficient by leveraging a particular analysis that is easily parallelizable and scalable via the Earth Engine platform? And then there's also tons of documentation, I think, to approach some of these novel analyses, or maybe not so novel in the sense that there's lots of examples out there to leverage. There's great documentation that's been developed around this platform for a number of years. And really, if anyone's starting their journey out there, the University of Knoxville in Tennessee, Dr. Wu is just amazing in kind of putting out his insights and experience and knowledge around Earth Engine, kind of about how to do some of these remote sensing, these practical remote sensing operations. So can really help you when you're getting into trying to design what you're trying to build. There's just so many resources out there, and I can't point to them all today, but would love to talk more. I think the system dimension is also important, right? Earth Engine is a component, for consideration in a broader data science kind of workflow. And, there are tons of API opportunities to kind of ask Earth Engine to do and produce things for you. So, and there's Python, libraries to support engaging with the Earth Engine platform, which could be feathered into existing systems and into existing workflows. So really kind of thinking about what are we using today? Where are we trying to go with our kind of our development of these systems? Where does ultimately the data need to go? So really considering how it flows is an important part of this process. And finally, operationally speaking, team compositions will vary. We often want it when we come to these conversations. Well, where are you? What is your team composition? Where are you trying to grow? And because that's going to it's going to be part of the conversation. But I think one of the big things operationally is how easy it is to share. We've kind of heard a little bit about that, but you can, write a script, share a piece, people can operate on it. You can pass back and forth this information in a way that it can allow you to develop faster and enable a broad variety of groups to kind of collaborate around a particular problem. So there's many components out there to generate value, and we're really excited to see how you use it. And but R&D is a part of this as well. The R&D you need to make space for people to develop these things. It's not, you can pull things off the shelf, and there's a lot of things that you can employ really quickly, but there's also going to be, as you go down this journey, more opportunity to create new things. So, but a basic implementation, thinking back to those colors, there's the data piece, there's the analysis and results piece, and then there's that operational application piece. And this is kind of how it starts, right? You would it doesn't have to be that complex to start to create value. And so I lay this out as just a representation of using those assets we talked about, blending your data, and then ultimately making it accessible via these types of resources. And then this kind of advances, right? We're excited. We're learning about new ways that people are conceiving of bringing this content together. And this is on the display of Earth Engine being just a component in this fully developed kind of workflow, which GCP can totally enable, the Google Cloud Platform, or it can connect to other existing clouds or local environments and processes that you already have. So it doesn't, this kind of lays out, I'm not going to go through all of these, but we're seeing some really interesting thoughts around how machine learning processes and the Earth Engine kind of assets can be paired together to improve the amount of training information that's easily accessible, right? Satellites continue to fly. There's new imagery every day. We'd love to be able to profile that. We'd love to be able to predict on that. And so Earth Engine's starting to play a role in kind of feeding some of these engines, these machine learning engines. I think another thing, just so there's Earth Engine assets. There's also high resolution assets. Sanborn is capturing really high res information. We've kind of been thinking about how that feathers in. There's also third-party satellite products, commercial satellite entities that you can conceive of when you're thinking broadly about the data going in. And it's really starting to fill, like as all of this data is more and more available and they give you programmatic endpoints, it's just creating more opportunity to answer more questions. But really the resolution of those platforms is kind of one of that early data conversation. What is going to be available to us today and potentially what's available to us tomorrow. Landsat I led with, there's a Landsat 9 mission, Landsat Next mission with more bands. Like there's just more information at higher resolutions becoming available. And if you start your journey with Earth Engine, you're kind of ready to be continually have that access and that kind of connection to process and learn from the Earth system that we're all observing and trying to make sense of. So that was a lot. I would love to go deeper, but I think in respecting our time here today, leaving some time for maybe the next slide, I think is my final slide. Yeah, I think we're good to kind of kick it back to you, Aaron.
Absolutely. And I think what's great about a diagram like this is working with a partner, we can take you from one end all the way to the other. You don't have to necessarily be operationally ready in every single one of these categories. It's kind of where we help you with the assembly. And I think that's what we're looking at here, right? Just like building a bike, setting up a geospatial data analysis project can be very complex. But with the right tools and the right partners, you can assure that everything comes together right. You don't put the handlebars on backwards and start heading down the road. And yeah, we're here to help you get the most out of this by providing that expert guidance and support. So from here, I just wanted to show everyone where they can learn more. We have put together some great resources for you, and we have some contacts for you on the slide if you want to take note of them. We'll also include these in our reach out as well. And on our team, we have David Holmes, another David with a love for geospatial on our team. And, together with David Breeding on the call, they've been really involved in these discovery sessions with customers where we learn about your use case and see where this might be a good fit. We also have a great website we put together that covers a lot of what we talked about on this webinar. You can find that at appgeo.com. And I believe from here, I'd love to get into Q&A because we have a ton of great questions coming in. I want to make sure we have time to get to them all. So I'm just going to kick things right off into it for you, David and Jeremy, but feel free to keep asking questions. And if there are things we can't get to on today's webinar, I want to go in deeper, we can always follow up with you on email to take it to that next step. The first question I had that came in is, can you think of any traffic or transportation related examples or use cases? I know transportation in general is an area that appGeo and Sanborn have spent a lot of time. Have any of those type of problems come across the use cases for Google Earth Engine?
I might hop in first, and then maybe I toss it to Jeremy to see if he has any thoughts. But generally speaking, it kind of depends in the transportation context. You know, if you're just looking for potentially a rough impervious surface kind of estimation across a count at a county level, like you could go and segment that and you could go and estimate that volume. Oftentimes in transportation use cases, it's a very specific, a high resolution kind of question about like, where are my, guardrails, right? Or where are they not? Or, potentially that slope, you could potentially see, slope if you're using a digital elevation kind of input. You could calculate slope and kind of look at how that relates. But oftentimes, that is challenging to do. There's also but right of way is often some questions that we're kind of exploring. I think we're trying to get the high resolution. We're still working with high resolution imagery in Earth Engine, but that's an area that we're exploring and could talk a little bit more deeply about that, maybe in a separate conversation. I don't know if Jeremy, you have any thoughts to add to that?
I'm having a hard time.
That's okay.
In the audio from him here. Jeremy can check his mic for a second. I'll read the next question here and maybe he can jump back in if need be. This is another one related to that aerial imagery. Does Google include aerial imagery datasets in the Earth Engine catalog? I think there's definitely some stuff from NAPE and such, but they definitely give you something to get started. Is that right, David?
Yeah, there is. If you go in Google Earth Engine catalog, you can go and search across the broad variety of data sets. When you say aerial photography, potentially you mean fixed wing, or that there. Kyle would be, maybe we can follow up with Kyle a little bit. I know Google has in Google Earth, or excuse me, in Google Maps, you see aerial imagery. I don't believe it's fully integrated right now, access to that content. There's licensing kind of terms around that imagery, but I don't know if Jeremy, his mic is working or not, could maybe comment on that asset, but I think we could redirect you to Kyle to get some more insight into that aerial kind of data that might be planned for in the future. Well, I guess that's...
I'm going to have to learn sign language here real quick. I just want to keep going through these questions because we have some great ones, and I want to get through them in the 10 minutes we have here. Let's see. This one is around kind of the research side for universities or agencies looking to leverage grant funding for environmental, agricultural, climate, all of that kind of research. Do you see value in having a tool such as this when applying for funding? For example, faster time to getting those results?
Yeah, whenever you're putting together a grant application, the more, concretely and discreetly you can kind of represent potentially the possibility, of leveraging such a tool to answer the questions that people are interested in answering. I think that for sure would be valuable. I think you can quickly create some really interesting images and analytics output kind of in a exploratory sense with Earth Engine for sure. I think connecting with Kyle a little bit, I know universities and researchers can get access to Earth Engine assets for free. I think this would be an opportunity for a conversation around the potential type of research you're interested in and whether or not Google might be able to support such an effort to ultimately get to a point where maybe the Earth Engine kind of resourcing was funded by the grant. So I would kind of point you towards Kyle and we can connect the dots.
Very good. And I think we almost have Jeremy back with us here.
I'm back.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks for getting that sorted. Any quick comments before we move on to the next question?
I had to drop and come back. So the question that we just answered was
Around the
which
grant.
one? Around the grant stuff? Yeah. I'll say that so there's two different types of there's Earth Engine's still free for pure research purposes. That means like you're producing a paper, adding to the body of knowledge around remote sensing, conservation science, what have you. For projects that are going to have an operational component, I would encourage you to put in your grant proposals for paid usage, and we can work with you to estimate what that would be. I've been on a couple of grants where we've done that, and it's been well received. So as long as you can know what those costs are moving forward, especially if there's going to be, Earth Engine is one component, but often if you're implementing something that has like a web interface or is going to be interfacing with other services in the cloud, you're going to want to put in to cover those services as well, and we can work with you to figure out what that would be. There's a number of calculators and that we can use to help estimate that.
Thank you. I think that will definitely be helpful for anyone in that university and research setting. We have a couple of questions that came in. I'm going to try to group together here because they're all about LiDAR and 3D data and kind of the downstream data sets from LiDAR. So I was wondering if either or both of you would like to comment on that type of data set in conjunction with Earth Engine, as well as products like DEMs and DSMs, which folks might be trying to leverage in their analyses.
Sure. LiDAR in its raw form won't go into, so Earth Engine works on imagery and your sort of more commonly, raster data, but it does have a vector data component, and it's actually fairly capable with vector data. It's more traditionally focused on the remote sensing applications. So to work with LiDAR data, you're going to process it to some kind of DEM and some sort of representation in raster space. So that does limit you a little bit in terms of like the types of analyses that you might use LiDAR for, but we certainly see it used as an input to different algorithms and visualizations for really high resolution three-dimensional surface. There is also a number of DM products already in the catalog that you can start working with right out of the bat. So like the 3-depth 1 meter, I believe, is in there. But as far as the raw LiDAR data, that would be processed outside. There's other products in GCP that could help you with that.
Excellent. I think that's a good start. And again, Sanborn goes super deep with LiDAR technology, so always happy to go further with questions about those technologies on another call. Here's a question that came in about integrations. They asked, does Google Earth Engine integrate with repositories such as GitHub and other platforms? I think integrations in general can be really helpful. So if either of you could elaborate on how those work, it would be great to hear.
Sure. So Earth Engine, we didn't really get into the weeds of like the interfaces, but so the main sort of most approachable way to work with Earth Engine is through our code editor, UI or IDE. Really, it's a web interface that lets you run JavaScript code to formulate Earth Engine queries. That is backed by a Git repository that we host. So in that sense, if you have GitHub repositories, you could clone them and reflect them into that internal one. But that is an internal Google hosted Git repository. You can still work with it through the normal Git tools, but it's hosted by us. Beyond that, though, those APIs are the JavaScript and the Python client that allows you to make the same queries outside of the code editor is what you could work with in JavaScript or Python environment that you have available to you. So Google Colab is our hosted Jupyter Notebook environment, as well as the Vertex AI has a more traditional Jupyter Hub notebook environment that you could reach out to GitHub from easily.
Excellent. Only a couple more questions here I'd love to get through before the top of the hour here. We have one. How would one request imagery to be added to the Earth Engine catalog? For example, they are asking about NAPE imagery, maybe some of the more recent NAPE data sets. It's kind of like the process for getting things into that catalog that might be useful for customers. It'd be cool to hear about.
Yeah, so our bug tracker or Buganizer that we use to field all requests for Earth Engine features, bug reports, whatever, also can take dataset requests, and our team headed by Simon Ilyashenko is quite responsive to that. I'll post it in the chat. Quite sure where I can do for everyone, but I'll get it in there. But it's just at earthengine.google.com/FAQ. There's a link in there to the dataset request form, so you can put requests in that. I'd also say that the community that goes beyond the internal Googler data support team is also quite responsive to pulling in datasets. So there's a GitHub project called Awesome EE Community Datasets that is compiling a lot of datasets that are maybe outside the purview of what we would pull in internally. Sometimes there's licensing restrictions that don't allow us to touch those, and sometimes they're just not datasets that are necessarily what belong in the public catalog. For that, the wider community has kind of stepped up and pulled stuff in and made them available to the public through the access control that you get through every user gets within the catalog.
And just a quick, you can bring your own imagery to the platform too, right? If you had a discrete area that you could kind of go and pull down some NAPE imagery, or you could go and do that. And there's ways to kind of bring, whether it's NAPE or other products that you want to be working with, you can kind of get those up into Earth Engine and act upon them with a little bit of data preparation. But it is possible to go that route as well. But the community is great around Earth Engine, and definitely put your requests in there.
Especially for small amounts of data, if you have if you have GeoTIFFs on your local hard drive, it's really simple to just plunk them into the code editor and create an asset within your own account, and then you can share that more broadly if you need to. But lots of ways to get data in. Oh, one more piece before so we're running up against time, but data that is in Google Cloud Storage. So GeoTIFFs, cloud optimized GeoTIFFs that sit there can be pointed to from inside Earth Engine, so they don't necessarily even have to be brought into the platform directly.
Yeah, that's often how we see, working with some states that have GeoTIFF assets sitting in cloud storage. You can just kind of point at them and kind of work with them discreetly. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know we're almost at the hour here. So for those of you who might have to drop off, we really thank you for joining us. I just have one more question I think I'd like to get to from our Q&A here. And this might be something where a partner can help. This person is asking about being able to get into Google Earth Engine without necessarily the overhead of managing the Google account and the billing. David, is that something that a partner might be able to help alleviate some of those pain points with signing up for all this and managing the account in the back end?
Yeah, actually, we support an existing state kind of with they're just starting their Earth Engine journey. We kind of play a role in kind of making sure they have the access they need, being this kind of support services interface as they design, kind of bringing in new groups, some different state entities that want to kind of work on the system, and then ultimately set up kind of the tracking associated with it. I think that the state is thinking about ways to kind of share the associated costs of Earth Engine, and so there's lots of great kind of ways to know what's going on and manage that. And if you don't want that overhead, that's something that we could definitely support on and at least kind of talk about our experience on what's been working.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. This has been a fantastic unboxing. I want to thank Kyle and Jeremy and David for sharing their insights with everyone. And again, we want to think of this as just the beginning of what we see as a fantastic partnership with this product and a journey with all of you. So again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to anyone on this call today. We'd love to talk more. And with that, I think I'll just see if you have any other remarks before we close up for the afternoon.
No, just thank you for everyone's attention, and happy to kind of go deeper. We love this work, thinking about the challenges and thinking about how Earth Engine might fit in. So please reach out, and look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thanks a ton. I really like the model that we're taking here with the partners like appGeo to kind of fill in the glue with subject matter expertise and engineering support to kind of enable customers to take this to the next level. I've found that in a lot of my previous work that was the missing component, was being able to take this core platform with lots of capabilities and fuse it with bring it to the decision makers in a way that was consumable to them. And I see that a partner like appGeo really enabling that to happen.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for attending. And we look forward to sharing out this recording with all of you who might have missed it or want to share it with others. So thanks again, and we'll be back for the next installment soon.